Explain why weaponry changed so rapidly in the period circa 1500 to circa 1700. You may use the following in your answer: gunpowder, muskets. You must also use information of your own. 12 marks. Here's the mark scheme for this question, which you can find out about in more detail in our overview video. We do know that 6 marks here are available for AO2, which is your analysis of causation or change. That will depend on the specific question that you're given, but essentially you've got to look at the period you've been given and think about the changes that have taken place across that time. And for the analysis bit, really all that means is just to explain why you think what you do. So rather than just giving statements and saying this changed or this happened because of this particular factor, you need to explain, well, why did that happen? Why did that change? Why did that particular thing lead to this event? This brings us on to AO1, which is worth the other 6 marks, and that is for your knowledge and understanding of the period. So although you've been given stimulus points in the question, to score as many marks as you can here, you really need to be bringing in evidence from your own knowledge to show the examiner that you know enough about the topic to be able to support your arguments. It's also worth noting that the AOs depend on each other, so that means that if you do really well in one of them, but you haven't included anything from the other one, so for example, you've got loads of knowledge in there, but you haven't actually analysed the change, then unfortunately you hit what's called a mark ceiling, so you can't actually progress into the higher bands for this question. So it's really important that you're analysing the causation and change, and you're using your own knowledge to do that, to explain why. These are the bottom 2 bands for this question, which again are explained in more detail in the overview video. But you might notice that we're seeing words like straightforward and general. So it might mean that maybe you've given a statement saying that this was a particular change or this was a particular cause, but you haven't gone into enough detail to explain why that led to changes over the period. So maybe think about drawing in more evidence from your own knowledge. Maybe think about using the word because more, so really trying to explain the root of the question and show the examiner that you've analysed what they've asked you to. These are the top 2 bands. Now you might see here that we've got things like the explanation is analytical, it's relevant, it's really tightly focused to the question, and to score in the top band you also need to have gone beyond the stimulus point, so that means that you're drawing on lots of your own knowledge to show you've got a really good understanding of the topic. It will also be quite easy for the examiner to see what you're trying to argue, so that means that it's structured logically, it's easy for them to follow, and you've made clear points which are explained fully. As long as the points you make to support your answer are relevant and correct, then the examiner will accept them. But let's take a look at an example. So you could have discussed the role of technology in scientific development and relate it back to the question, so maybe saying that England's cast iron industry grew and expanded from the 1500s, and that meant that cannons could be manufactured on a much larger scale and therefore play a more significant role in warfare. You could also discuss the improved design of cannons because they could now fire at an increased rate and had an increased range of fire, and they were also made lighter. Take a look at the rest of the points here though to see if there's anything you could have added to your answer.